Tuttle here for Ferguson Roof Systems. For 43 years, Ferguson Roof Systems has been protecting Oklahoma's homes and businesses with quality roofing services. Their goal was to be the most honest and dependable roofing company in the state, all while providing free services such as lifetime labor warranty and annual inspections. Well, mission accomplished with thousands of client testimonials, an A+ Better Business Bureau rating, and a 5-star rating on Google. Look, the weather gives you enough to worry about, so why worry about who to trust with your roof? Call Ferguson Roof Systems today or find out more at fergusonroofsystems.com.
Welcome back. Meteorologist Aaron Tuttle with you. It is your Friday. We made it another week. Woohoo! And it's our lunchtime live as we're going to talk about the weather forecast for you as we head on into the weekend. See if anything's changed and give you the latest update on what that's going to happen. And that way you can plan accordingly, especially as we head into early next week. Melinda, thank you for the stars here on our Facebook Live. You are first. So I appreciate your love and support that way. You guys on YouTube, thanks for checking in. I'd like to see where you're coming in from. We've got Rico from Edmond. Minoki's in the house. Rena's here from Ochaleta. We've got more in the house. Thank you, Renee. And also have North Texas. Minoki's in there. And I don't see Jim from Mustang. He's running late today. I'll let him slide. And then Ada's in the house as well. So good to see you guys out there on YouTube. I see you, Jill from Yukon, and Edward from Midwest City. Nicole from Ada. You guys are all over the place. Facebook, thanks for tuning in. Also on Rumble as well. And we'll get that Rumble chat going as that platform grows and audience builds. Bill, thank you for the stars. You're in Frederick, huh? Well, it looks like you guys can get a little action down there in Frederick, the way things are going with the model data. Take a look at that here in a second. I see you, Jan from Norman and Nancy from Yukon. Well, let's get on with the program, shall we? Make sure, again, if you have not, please do some organic verbiage for me. That means spread the good word. So tell them to check in my broadcast for AT's weather for lunchtime lives and also during the evening hours, but also just the blog itself, website, aarontuttle.com, the weather app, AT's Weather to Go. It's free. You can track all these changes on it. Doesn't cost you a thing. And then, of course, just follow me for good weather information. So like and share the video, all that kind of stuff. Put it on your Facebook feeds or all that jazz. All right, let's go on and look outside. Let's see. Oh, by the way, let me put that link again for the broadcast channel if you want to join, or the other options there in the comments section. Okay, so outside right now we've got a mixture of clouds and sunshine. It's a pretty decent day. Thank you, Lisa. So looking like a cold day, but at least we got some sun. It kind of helps offset it. If you're indoors, you're looking out the window, it doesn't look so bad. But when you do go out there, whew, it is cold, man. It's a little chilly out there. Let's see. I'm going to show you temperatures across the state, and that way you can pick your nearest town or where you're located from. And you can see it's not much different from one place to another. You've got the lower teens across far northern and northeastern Oklahoma, and then you've got the low to mid 20s down there in southern Oklahoma. So it's obviously been a cold start to our day. It will rebound a little bit here for the afternoon, but it's not going to be all that pleasant. It could be worse. If you look up here into Kansas, they're all into the single digits. And if you go to Nebraska, they're dipping down around 0 at times, and of course below 0 once you get north of there. So it's a pretty good cold shot. It's not nearly as cold as the last ones we talked about, but it's enough to do the job. So like we talked about, it was a cold start this morning. We had readings into the single digits across northern and northeastern Oklahoma again. Teens looks like elsewhere over the body of the state. And then we do have a north wind still sustained up around 15 to 20 miles per hour, occasionally some higher gusts than that. So it's going to be a windy start to our afternoon. Temperatures, like we said, out there are into the teens, and they're starting to warm down to the 20s once you kind of get south of this little light blue line here. So that is a little bit of a change, but boy, it's still cold up there in the north. And then as the winds are still kind of howling in there, so you do have a wind chill value up around 0 degrees or single digits across much of northern, northeastern Oklahoma. A little better here down the south, but not much. Our coldest wind chill values this morning for daybreak hours is around minus 15 to minus 20 again. I'll be glad we're done with those, right? Okay, upper levels of the atmosphere, the gesturing pattern still shows that big system coming in from the west. Look at all this energy that's got to zip on through our region. So that means we're going to be stuck in this kind of a broad southwest flow for several days. So look for more rainfall starting again from Sunday night through next week, probably most of the week. We'll have some breaks in the action. It won't rain the whole time, but it's going to be kind of an off and on wet pattern to be in. Okay, so let's take a look here at the lift in the atmosphere at the 700 millibar layer on Sunday. You can start to see a little bit of lift showing up here across the state. Just very light stuff. It'll help to generate some cloud cover. And then by morning, a little passing disturbance will zip through, help to generate some more clouds. And then this stuff right here is the kicker. This lift that comes in across western Texas is the real deal. That's what's going to get the precip going. And that'll be here for Texas as we head into late Sunday afternoon from North Texas down to Central Texas. And then that lift does move into and across the border into Oklahoma for Sunday evening, and then off and on for Sunday night into Monday. The heaviest lift is actually from Monday morning down here in North Texas, and then moving on into Arkansas and Missouri as you go throughout the Monday period. We still have more moderate lift here across parts of the state, but by far and large, the heaviest is off to our east, which means the heaviest precipitation totals will be out across the east as well. So I know what you're asking, Aaron. I don't have time to watch you through the whole 10 minutes for this noontime forecast. Just give me the Coles notes. All right, we have ice coming. Batten down the hatches, and that's Sunday late evening across Oklahoma, or actually I should say really probably early evening, and down south into Texas for late afternoon, ending by lunchtime, probably around lunchtime Monday. So ice accumulations during that period, slick and hazardous travel. There it is. But still, the details for you is this. Okay, so details showing the dew points coming in to the negative numbers here for today. You say, why do we care about dew points? Well, in the winter weather, it's all about the dew points. So the drier it is, the lower those temperatures can go. I'm going to show what that means here in a second. But on Saturday, dew points values stay into the single digits, which means very dry out there. You're like, well, how can we get rain if it's dry? Well, that's because that moisture comes from a little layer above where we all live and breathe, and that's why. So here's Sunday afternoon. Our dew point's at 15 degrees. Tulsa 9, down here in Dallas are about 17. You see them start to moderate out here. It's almost like a patch of white, right? Replacing the brown. That's because rainfall is falling all in this area, and that is starting to saturate the lower levels of the atmosphere. As we go into Sunday evening at midnight, these dew point values are still into the upper 20s here in Dallas, 20s here for us. Again, this means, and why you care, is that if you have temperatures on the dew point side in the 20s, that means you have freezing rain. Anywhere where you see dew points below freezing. So if the Monday morning, dew points all into the 20s, that means freezing rain anywhere you get precipitation. Now, there is some change in the model data. It's kind of nudging the freezing line, cutting it right through Dallas-Fort Worth at 6 a.m. Monday. And then by 7 a.m., you can see they get above freezing, or 8 or 9 o'clock in the morning. So Dallas commute is going to be right on the border. Early commuters, an ice storm. Latter commuters, it might have all melted by then and get a break. But talk about a close call and the timing, horrible. All right, so anyway, so that's Monday morning. By Monday lunchtime, dew point values are now into the lower 30s, probably above freezing for about just Tulsa southward and Oklahoma City southward. And then by the afternoon, so basically after lunchtime, everything now warms above freezing in the areas where it is raining, except from, there might be an exception to the rule, a few spots out here in the terrain for Missouri and Arkansas. But other than that, this map is showing us what we've been talking about for days on end. And so when you look at Sunday night, for example, this is the actual temperatures in blue. This is the freezing line. You can see it dips all the way down into basically the Austin near San Antonio region and back off to the east from there. So when you take these temperatures that are into the 20s and 30s, and it rains, and those fall, and they touch the dew points, they have to meet in the middle. Dew point comes up, temperature goes down. We call it the wet bulb temperature. So this map here shows the wet bulb temperature from Monday morning. So the key here to the takeaway is this little white line. This right here, cutting through Dallas-Fort Worth, dips down a little bit. So everything along and north of this line is a wet bulb temperature below freezing, which means any precipitation that falls in this zone into the north is all ice. That does include Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, and North Texas. All right, I might sound like a broken record to you if you've been watching for the last few days. And I hate to tell you this, but that's probably the best thing for you because that means that I know what I'm talking about and I know how to forecast. I don't wishy-wash. I don't change it. I don't backpedal. It is what it is. So my goal is to be right 7 days out. And that's difficult. Trust me. It ain't easy. So we'll see. This event still has to happen, but so far nothing has changed in the data to say otherwise. Temperatures. Let's take a close-up view For today, like I said, a rebound into the 20s and teens out there, but still a pretty cold day. As we head into tonight, into tomorrow morning, we're right back into the teens. Probably see a few single digits up here, especially in northeastern Oklahoma again. As we head into Saturday afternoon, we're back into the mid to upper 20s across most of the state. Once you get to about Lawton, down to the Red River, those last tier counties hugging the border should get just above freezing by a degree or two. And then we're going to repeat the performance on Sunday, back down into the teens. Well, there might still be some teens up here, very close. Otherwise, 20s across the state for Sunday morning. And then by Sunday afternoon, warming it back up only into the low to mid 30s statewide. We should get above freezing barely by just a degree or two, and that's it. That's all I can promise you. And in some cases, that may not even happen because the cloud cover is quite thick in this part of the state, and therefore temperatures may not even get above freezing here. And honestly, I'd be surprised if they did, the way things are looking. Regardless, by Sunday evening, temperatures are already back down into that blue area, which is all below freezing, with again the wet bulb even lower than that, the dew point lower than that. So it means any precipitation falling, this will be all ice Sunday evening. And it'll probably start just some innocuous drizzle, some sprinkles, but I guarantee you anything that falls from the sky will be flash frozen on the streets, on the bridges, on the overpasses. It'll be an ice skating rink starting Sunday evening through noontime Monday. So there's Monday morning. Again, we're in the deep freeze. Now, you see what happens here by lunchtime, we start to warm up. So about 32, 33 degrees here across central Oklahoma. So that will be our thaw out period. So any ice that we have on elevated surfaces will start to melt and then be completely relieved for the afternoon. Now we do have the winds to talk about here for today, and those are dying down this afternoon. So those gusts up over around 20 will be a distant memory, and then they'll pick back up again a little bit out here into northwest Oklahoma for Saturday evening. Otherwise, Saturday's a pretty decent day as far as the wind goes, very light. And then on Saturday night and Sunday, those winds really pick up as we head into the daybreak hours, and they'll probably stay pretty sustained around 15 to 25 miles per hour. And we're going to have gusts even higher than that. And I'm going to show you what the gust looks like here in a second. But on Monday morning, we still have enough wind that might... Any ice accumulations that are heavy would tend to build up. Now, the models do indicate a lighter wind here in southeast Oklahoma, which would be good news because you don't want any wind where you do have significant measurements of ice. But there is going to be some strong wind around, especially on the I-44 corridor and points to the north. So any heavy ice loads would cause swaying of the branches and the power lines, and that can cause additional power outages, which is why that's important. All right, so let's take a look. The winds die down again this afternoon. Let's just zip on through the weekend. This is the wind gusts, and you can see they're going to be quite windy up across the panhandle for Sunday as we head into the morning hours, and then those winds kind of expand across the state. So there's Sunday afternoon, and so we have plenty of wind speeds here gusting up to around 20 to 30 miles per hour, no problem, during the day on Sunday and even during the evening. So here's Sunday evening. So I got some winds gusting all the way down to North Texas. Looks like probably close to the upper 20s. So any ice accumulations that start to develop again will have to be in the influence of that. The good news is, though, as the ice builds up, in theory, the winds start to calm down in the area where the ice has been the heaviest. So if we can get that timing just right, we might be a little bit better off when it comes to power outages. Otherwise, still a little breezy through Monday morning into Monday afternoon across the state. And that's, of course, all a southeast wind for the most part. Okay, so let's take a look at the wind chill values. Like I said, this afternoon, they'll be recovering a little bit. They're going to feel like more into the teens versus single digits or below zero. So, like I said, it's a cold. We're kind of used to it by now, I would think. Saturday, wind chill values into the single digits and teens in the morning. And then for the afternoon, wind chill values still pretty much where they are, teens and some 20s. And then as we head into Sunday, repeat performance in the morning hours. Feels like it'll be in the single digits and teens out there. And then Sunday afternoon, we're going to be rebounding it into the 20s for the wind chill value. So a little bit of a break in the temperatures. We're going to be out and about. Precipitation doesn't start until late Sunday afternoon down across southern Oklahoma at the earliest. So that means you do have all of Sunday to continue to do your plans. We talk about the precipitable moisture. It's how much you can squeeze out of a sponge in the atmosphere. Look how that green that works its way into the state for Sunday evening and some of that blue color comes in as well for Monday across southeast Oklahoma, Arkansas, Missouri, North Texas, and that is why we're getting so much precipitation out of this. The bad news is we just have ice to deal with because the temperatures are too cold. If the temperatures were a few degrees warmer, it wouldn't matter, but that's not the case. Soil temperatures, which means ground temperatures, which means your road temperatures, when the precipitation starts, you're going to be hugging pretty close to the freezing point across the entire area of Oklahoma. And so that means we should have flash freezing on contact. If you want to know what that means, it basically means you have temperatures aloft in the atmosphere that kind of warm at a certain level, several thousand feet off the ground. And so what happens is the snow comes down through that layer. So it basically falls from the cloud base as snow, gets to this warm layer, which is above freezing. This right here is the freezing line. So it gets warm, this little section of the atmosphere. So as it does so, that snow falls through this section and it melts and it turns over into raindrops. Now as it turns over into raindrops, we are below freezing at the surface. So then it basically causes these raindrops to flash freeze into little ice puddles everywhere. So that's how you get your ice storm situation. Okay, so let's take a look at the output from the data as we head into Sunday evening. So there is your Sunday afternoon forecast. It does call for these showers and drizzle and freezing rains to break out here across central, west central Texas and in North Texas, expanding quickly through Dallas-Fort Worth through 6 o'clock Sunday evening. And even there's some signs of some very light drizzle, light freezing sprinkles down here across the southern half of Oklahoma by 6 p.m. Sunday. And then that expands northward at 9 p.m. already into central Oklahoma to Tulsa. Still ongoing down here. Not a big signal, but enough. Trust me, anything you're going to get is going to cause a problem. And then as we head into the midnight hours, kind of expands north and east toward Missouri and also into Arkansas. Still down around the North Texas area for Dallas. Now as we head into Monday afternoon, you do see a change over to green, which means no more ice. That's getting out of here, even for Missouri and Arkansas. So that's a little bit of a change. Last night, the data kind of held on to a couple of spots out here, but it looks like it's going to try to warm things up enough to get all that into rainfall by Monday afternoon, which is good news there. Okay, so amounts for precipitation, because obviously this is important, how much rainfall falls from the sky. We can look at the various models. The European has anywhere from about 1/10 to 2/10 of an inch, pockets of 3/10 here across the Red River Valley and down to North Texas, so one of the lighter outputs. The Canadian model, I'll just go with the high resolution version, just goes nuts. Now, a lot of times this happens. It's a knee-jerk reaction. I think it's a little biased in the model. I like to cut the values by in half when that does occur. So that's still a 1/2 inch, though, of ice. This goes through Monday morning. And I stopped it at Monday morning only because that is the period of time I can guarantee that this is going to be ice all in this area that you see. Because after we get to the morning hours, each hour after that, we should start to slowly moderate temperatures. So I want to at least see what's a guaranteed amount of ice that we're going to get. And that's why I stopped at this time frame. I could easily go a little longer, and we'll look at the map here in a second. But the point is, that's a lot of precipitation during that 6 hour plus window. So anyway, so it kind of continues up to Missouri and western Arkansas, down to North Texas. All these models have different amounts, anywhere from 1/10 to 2/10 to 3/10 for the most part. It seems like a pretty good average if you take away some of the outliers. The Icon model goes a little higher. It's up around 4/10. The American model's got some spots in here up around 6/10. There's 4/10. So it's not out of the question. You get some higher amounts kind of thrown in there in different spots. When you look at the overall ice accumulations, the take home I want to show you on this map is you're kind of looking in this corridor, something like this is kind of how it's going to be bounded by, kind of in this general vicinity. So it cuts it through Dallas-Fort Worth, kind of in the hill country and back into the southeastern 2/3 of Oklahoma, and then at least the central northern western parts of Arkansas and most of Missouri. But that's the European. It's got amounts here up to around 3/10 of ice accumulation. Let's see, there's close to 4. Yeah, there's 4/10 there, almost 1/2 inch. Now, again, the Canadian model went nuts. I'll go with high resolution version. 1.5 inch of ice, inch of ice. Again, divide that by 2, and even if you did, that's 3/4 of an inch of ice out here in eastern Oklahoma and western Arkansas. That's nasty because that's crippling for ice accumulations and therefore power outages. So you know. Otherwise, in the southeast Kansas, right on that I-44 corridor, that still seems to be the favored boundary. Where once you get along that boundary to the north and west, amounts deteriorate and lessen quickly. It's not nearly as much, but again, it won't take anything. Just a light couple of hundredths, and you've got problems on the roads. But as far as anything heavy or substantial that could cause power outages, that's more to the south and east of that boundary. And then finally, here's the NAM version, and it's down here a little bit more to the south, like I said, down towards San Antonio, out down to the hill country. Otherwise, it kind of fits that pattern that I showed you earlier. And the GFS, the American model, I'm surprised it even has ice at all. It's a poor model to use for ice, but at least it kind of has a general area. So that's kind of an example of how all that looks. And when you're talking about different, let's just say those different models, they have different ensembles with them. And if you look here at the scale to the left, once you get into the red, you're in the quarter to half-inch zone. So I want to show you how many of these models paint red on the map. And for our area that we're looking at. So let's go to the European, and we're going to 25 different runs. So there's red there, there's red there, look at that, red there, and there. And this is what I'm saying, that the control run of the European has been very underperforming, whereas all of its other members are over the top ridiculous. And there's one that's underperforming. But otherwise, most of these are saying, this is no problem. I guarantee a tenth to a quarter of an inch of ice over a large area of Oklahoma. And in some of these, I'm going well over that, up to maybe half an inch. And that's just the European. That's been the conservative model of the last stretch of the last few days. Even the American model's got some action. This is what it's doing. And again, I'm surprised it actually has any ice on the map. But it's going pretty decent for a model that doesn't do very good with ice events. The SREF, that's a short-term high-resolution model. And it's got widespread areas of up to a tenth to a quarter of an inch of ice from northwestern Texas and hill country up north into most of Oklahoma, Missouri, and Arkansas. I like this output, actually, honestly, if you want to kind of do a good blend. And the red indicates those little isolated areas where you're going to get a quarter to half inch of ice accumulation. So I actually kind of like that look. Anyway, so here's some of the Canadian outputs. It kind of favors more of an eastward track and obviously a heavier track that we talked about. But you can see how many of those kind of really shift eastward into Missouri and Arkansas. But still, some of them get Oklahoma pretty good. And its control run is the one that goes nuts. It's got purple on the map, which is, again, over an inch to inch and a half of pure ice. And that never happens, but it seems to do that a lot. And you have to cut, like I said, divide by about 2 is your rule of thumb on that one. Okay, so I just wanted to show you that there's plenty of model consistency that this is going to happen. So it's not like it's not going to happen. It is, and it's just a question of how much. And most of them are fairly confident that tenth to a quarter of an inch widespread is on the table, and then there's going to be some areas that get higher than that. So you can call this a probability for an ice glaze, is what the National Weather Service calls it. I would just say yes or no, and so I would say yes rather than a probability. But if it kind of, you've got a different way, you can look at this as maybe where higher amounts would be. Now that I could go with, so down here across southeastern Oklahoma. And let's see, where was the one from Tulsa? Yeah, here's Tulsa. Same idea for Sunday night, Monday morning. They just painted the whole map in the yellow, but they went a little more on the conservative side. Only a few areas of little orange or red showing up on the map of a quarter of an inch or higher. And they kind of favored this area here, which is kind of what the models have done so far. They do not have this area, but they'll update this map, and I'm assuming that they're going a little heavier once they get a look at the data. Here is a look at what we call kind of an experimental deal. It's a probabilistic winter storm severity index for ice accumulation. So it has a moderate impact for ice. So obviously that leads to travel issues and also some probably isolated power issues at a minimum. But you can see on this model, and we showed you this last night, it was way, I think it was like way up here, and that's kind of all it had. And I said, don't worry, it'll extend it down. It's doing it a little bit at a time. It'll probably be better tomorrow, but you can see how it expands here as I go through the forecast hour. So it does include Dallas-Fort Worth and just south and west there now. That little hot spot here in southern Oklahoma, that little hot spot here in Arkansas and eastern Oklahoma, quite heavier at times. And then there you go, that new spot there in south central Missouri that's been showing up in the last couple of days of the data. So that would be your favorite area where you have more issues in regards to the ice accumulations. And I believe that was it. Temperatures at nighttime into the teens, like we talked about. Daytime highs in the 20s for today and tomorrow. So the million-dollar question, will we get to 36 here in Oklahoma City? I doubt it. I think we'll probably hit 34. But tomato, doesn't matter. They'll fall as soon as rain starts to happen in the evening hours. And then on Monday, we'll start you off still below freezing. So it could be 28, 29, or 30 degrees. But regardless, we should get above freezing by around lunchtime. Not by much, though. Maybe a couple of degrees. So we may not hit that 39, maybe like 38, 37. But again, big deal. And then after that, no problems. We're not stuck with this Arctic air, so everything does erode and melt off. So the good news is that any ice accumulations that we do have will melt pretty quickly, and then any powers that we've had, that's it. That from that 6 to 12 hour window, you won't get any additional ones due to ice load, because the weight of that will all be gone as everything melts off the tree limbs and the power lines and all that kind of stuff. So that's what I have for you. So it's nothing new. If you've been watching my broadcast for the last few days from my blog on Sunday, you know it's been coming, and it looks like everything's still right on track. If you're new here, welcome. I'm glad you've joined us, and that's what the forecast is if you did not know what was going on. So short version is cold weekend, a little windy at times, and then we've got cloud cover comes in on Sunday. We've got light precipitation that breaks out Sunday late day, probably after 5, right around 6 o'clock maybe, southern Oklahoma. Light drizzle, light sprinkles, that'll all be frozen on contact. So if you're traveling on the roadways, I-35, heading back and forth to Dallas, bad idea at that time. And then from that point forward, it's just going to be ice for the rest of the evening, overnight, into Monday morning, and then midday morning. For Monday, things improve in North Texas, and they gradually improve, working its way from south to north during the morning hours on Monday. So that means if you do have to travel on Monday, you can do it, but you have to do it in the afternoon. Pretty much, I'd wait till about lunchtime. Take a look at temperatures across the state, wherever you are. If you're on the southern, say south of I-40, you're probably good to go. You probably head out. If you're north of I-40, obviously if you're still at 31 or 30 degrees, you might want to wait a couple hours. Let it get to 32, 33, 34, and then you can head out and do what you got to do. So that's my advice to you. And just stay safe. Make sure you get your insurance for your car updated, and avoid that auto hockey at all costs. All right, you guys have a great rest of your Friday. Hope you have a great weekend. Stay warm. And I'll be doing some more updates over the weekend to talk about the storm on Monday. And you can join me then at any time. And I will see you later. So again, thanks for your support, and we'll talk soon. Take care.